We are back with Grazel Garcia. How are you today, Grazel?
Doing well, Scott. How are you?
Really well, thank you. Um, Something that I guess we've never really spoken about so far is what's your perspective on a couples therapy session? So, I guess my first question to you is how do you view yourself in terms of relating to the couple? Are you there to facilitate a conversation? Are you there to guide them on a kind of pre-scripted journey back to healing? How do you view your own role?
Yes. Um, those two things I do, but the role that I play the most in EFT and in working with couples is that I'm taking the role of being a process consultant.
Okay.
That means working in the process
Hmm.
where I'm facilitating dialogue. I'm breaking the blocks that prevent connection. So there could be guidance for me,
Hmm.
right? So facilitation, how the dialogue can begin,
Hmm.
guidance on how to speak about their emotions when they don't know their emotions yet.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm not there as an expert in their relationship. I don't take that role. Um, my role is to help them figure out the music of their dance. This is very big in EFT, is that we look at the interactional cycle as a dance where they get lost in the loop of their connection and disconnection, where I'm practically a choreographer
Okay.
and looking at, okay, when you do A, partner B does
Mm.
A, right? And then when you're in that space, then you're probably stepping on each other's toes while you're learning the steps
Mm.
to the dance or missing the tune, the right tune to the music that you're learning,
Hmm.
right? So I'm looking at attachment, or I'm looking at behaviors and cognitive appraisals in that way. So I'm more of a choreographer that's leading them to perfect their dance. Perfection meaning to know the steps to the dance that will create a positive cycle.
Yeah, I love that analogy actually. So you just to kind of clarify, you kind of view your role as you notice when you do this. So if you were to do this instead, it would invoke this response. So this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And then if you guys can do that, then you're going to come together. Is that more or less it?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So each partner's cue triggers the other partner's action tendencies.
Mhm.
So it's exactly what you're saying. When, let's say, Scott, you started to, I don't know, let's say I was talking to you and I really wanted connection. Let's say you were my partner, I really wanted connection, and you're kind of inattentive and maybe really busy and I couldn't have your undivided attention. That puts me in a place of, let's say, angry. When I'm angry, something happens to you. Maybe you start to get angry back. And when you're getting angry back at me, then the therapist would look at, well, what happens to you, Grazel, when he's angry back at you, right? So the therapist, the EFT therapist is doing the choreography.
Mm.
When one step is in the present moment and it's alive, how does that move the other partner? So we choreograph and understand that's the part where we look at organizing the elements of emotion in stage one.
And I guess the really key thing for you, if you're viewing yourself as a choreographer in that sense, it's making sure that you're totally neutral, you're totally outside, you're not biased in favor of one partner or the other. So how do you kind of manage that while still holding the space to say, no, you need to change your behavior here? You know what I mean?
Mm, right. Right. I think this is such a beautiful question because with EFT, that's we don't do that. We don't say, we don't tell each partner that move you're doing is wrong. You need to change it.
Right. Okay.
That sounds so like pointed, critical, and judgmental. So EFT therapists are trained um, not to do that. So it's not a directive approach, right? So when I'm looking at a behavior that causes disconnection, what I try to do instead is I ask them, where is that coming from?
Hmm.
When you're really angry and it's so big, it sounds like your anger is so important and it's communicating something to your partner, but you don't have the words to say it. So what your partner sees is just an anger exploding. Can you help me understand what's going on inside your anger? Right? Before you get to a point of getting angry, which blocks connection from your partner.
Hmm.
Can you help me understand what's going on in there? So it's a little bit longer, it's more experiential. I'm like expanding the emotion
Mm.
without criticism, judgment, or yeah, without criticism, blame, or judgment.
Mm.
It won't work.
Yeah.
So as an EFT therapist, we can't be biased. We have to, we're neutral. Every single move each partner does makes sense.
Yeah.
There's, it's not wrong or right,
Yeah. It's
right?
kind of going.
It just makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of going into that. Is it parts work where you're thinking every action someone takes underneath that there is a positive intention somewhere. You just need to work out what that is. Like if someone's got an addiction to chocolate, the positive intention is because they want to feel good, even though eating chocolate isn't actually going to achieve that. That's what they're seeking. And there's a positive intention behind that.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess it's the same thing
Absolutely.
with an argument when person A does this and person B does something else, and then one person gets angry. There's a positive intention under that, which is, I guess, you're not seeing me, and then that's what's
Yes. Or
trying to be asserted. Yeah.
yes, right, right. There's there's an attachment need that's driving a certain emotion that's not being attended to,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we want to look underneath each of the emotion and break it down and expand it and look at what else is in there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
There's a certain amount of bravery to kind of peel back those layers. Um, how much do you
Yeah.
focus on like you've spoken a lot about like peeling back the layers, and that's obviously on like an individual basis. So how much time do you spend on that inner work for the individual in the couple versus how the couple interacts together? Would you say more time spent on the inner work or?
Oh, wow, great question. I haven't really thought about it in that way. Well, it's expanding the elements of emotion is part of creating safety and security.
Mhm.
Without that, I wouldn't be able to de-escalate the conflict, right? So that's a big part. In that includes understanding the interactions that plays in the conflict.
Mhm.
So I think it's a great balance. The only time that it changes a lot more is when I go into stage two of EFT because there I don't really have to focus more on the negative interactional cycle because I've already de-escalated it in stage one. All I'm doing in stage two is the couples in stage two are ready to receive their partner. I've moved them from not being able to receive their partner emotionally to moving them to a place where if their partner is hurt, the other partner can receive them. So I'm not looking much into their interactional cycles in stage two. So that's the shift that happens in stage two. But in stage one, I'm doing both a
Yeah.
lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does make
Mhm.
sense. I was just intrigued kind of how it those two things interact because in a sense they're different and
Mm.
in a sense they're the same. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. Um, have you ever had an experience where maybe a couple has had an expectation of you as a therapist and they think you're thinking a certain thing, or you're there to do a certain job, and you've kind of had to reset those expectations.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of people, a lot of folks that come into therapy, especially the ones that are new to therapy, they really don't know what to expect
Hmm.
in therapy. So it's so important to provide that information that here's what I do and here's what I'm gonna do. So I tell them, if I'm treating you as a couple, I'm here to serve your relationship, right? And there's going to be moments where I'm going to lean in more closely because you may need to be attended to. And there's going to be some moments where I'm going to lean back and give you more of the space because that's something that you need. I'm I'm very attuned in those moments to know what the couple needs or what the individual needs. I'm there for them. So I just really need to focus. So if they think that I am supposed to be, let's say they come in, usually, okay, let me come back to your question. So in the very beginning of consultation, when I speak to them, I tell them if you're looking for a therapist, it's going to be very direct,
Mm.
meaning directive in a way that tells you exactly what you need to do because your behaviors are wrong. That's not me. However, I am a direct therapist. Um, if I see that there's an elephant in the room, I'm going to bring it in. That's what you're paying me for,
Yeah.
is to look at what's happening in the room. If I don't bring that up, then how am I going to be there to help you heal? Right? So anything that happens that the patient is not seeing that's unconscious to them, I come in and I'm direct with that. But my directedness is more like leaning in and being in your journey versus being an expert on how you should do things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really refreshing to hear you say that, because I think a lot of people might have certain fears around couples therapy and feeling like, oh, I'm just going to go there and be told that I'm the bad guy and I'm doing everything wrong, and you know, I feel like that's potentially something that you experience. Do you ever have people kind of dragging their feet on the first session, thinking, "What's this going to be like?"
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought this up because the bad guy, it's very gender biased,
Yeah.
but uh it's more like couples are afraid that they're going to be blamed because they did something, right? And that's a natural fear. And in couples therapy, in EFT, we are not we we're unbiased. So we go in there and look at the actual cycle being the problem, not each partner.
Hmm.
It's the, it's what happens in between them that we look at as the problem.
Yeah.
It's the cycle, not either of them, which is so healing.
Yeah.
Just imagine you're coming in and it's like your therapist is telling you there's nothing wrong. Everything that you do makes sense
Mm.
because each of you are moving each other towards that direction. But what's not helping is the cycle that leads to disconnection. That's what we're going to look at. The more we understand that cycle, the more I'm able to move you to a place of connecting again in a harmonious and safe way.
Yeah. And I think,
So I'm not saying you're wrong, you're right. No.
yeah. Yeah, and it reminds me of, I think we spoke when we spoke a few weeks ago. You mentioned you try and turn things from like the couple against each other to the couple against the cycle. And I think that's just
Yes.
a really powerful way to reframe a relationship dynamic that isn't actually working right now. It's like, it's not, you're not the problem, you're not the problem, but there's this thing between you that you both need to turn your focus on and together tackle. I think that's a really powerful way to reframe the
Yeah.
whole situation.
That's a beautiful reframe, Scott. That's a beautiful reframe. That's practically what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again so much for your time. That's been a really interesting conversation again, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Okay, thanks, Scott.